Hello, everyone.
We are just waiting for everybody to kind of filter in from the waiting room. We're getting the presentation loaded. Thank you for your patience as we take just a moment to pause before we jump in to the conversation today. Ben, if you'd like, we can move forward as well. We'll just take care of some housekeeping things while we're making sure folks are getting in from the waiting room. So first and foremost, welcome to our discussion today. We are very happy that you're here. We are looking forward to sharing the information that we have and answering any questions that you might have. We'll start with some quick introductions of the Department of Human Services team, as well as our partners with A&M. We'll also, if you're comfortable, you can share in the chat your first name, the town that you reside, and then your role in the chat. So as you can see the example, Kate, Sioux Falls mom. Today we're also going to be explaining the update around agency with choice services and what we have to do to get to a long-term solution. We're going to discuss the choices that are available today. We'll also share information that on how you can learn more and how you can partner with us if you're interested. And then, of course, as always, we want to hear any questions or ideas you have. Our goal through the transition around agency with choice has remained steady. So we continue to work to minimize disruption for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families, providing stable and reliable services that meet people's needs. And so with that, we'll just take a quick moment. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Joey Uni. I'm the director of the Division of Developmental Disabilities. I'll turn it over to Julie, if you're available to do an introduction.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Hand. I am the Deputy Director of the Division of Developmental Disabilities.
And then Carrie.
Hi, everyone. Carrie Geppert. I also work for the Division of Developmental Disabilities. I'm the Family Advocacy Coordinator based out of Sioux Falls, and I'm also a parent.
Thanks, Carrie. And then I think the other Division of Developmental Disabilities staff that you will hear from today is Cade.
Cade Anderson, HCBS Operations Manager, and I'm based here out of here.
Thanks, Cade. With that, we'll turn it over to the A&M team for quick introductions as well.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Leviton. I am the project leader here in South Dakota. Met many of you during our work on the assessment of Family Support 360 and shared living, and really happy to be back with me. And if you guys can just introduce yourselves in this order, Shivani, Brian, and Ben.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shivani Patel. I'm a senior director with A&M, working with Erin and the team. Haven't had a chance to meet everybody here yet, but looking forward to meeting people soon.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian Allen. I'm a director at Alvarez & Marsal, working with the team as well. Good to meet everybody.
Hi everybody, I'm Ben Keschner with Alvarez & Marsal. I'm an analyst, and it's good to be here with you all at this month's Town Hall.
Thank you all. With that, I think we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. Before we get started, there's an opportunity to share any questions or feedback that you might have. And so, of course, we want to hear from you. You can either use that QR code holding your phone up with the camera on. It'll take you there. You can go right to menti.com and use that code. It's, again, anonymous, so please share any questions, feedback, comments with us. And then at the end of our conversation, we'll talk through those a little bit as well. I can see lots of folks coming in on the chat too. Thank you so much for the introductions. Looks like we have a wonderful group with us today. Ben or Shivani, anything extra guidance on the Menti poll? Are we good? Just folks to jump in there, give feedback, and we'll review shortly.
Yep. Sounds
We'll keep the Menti open throughout the course of the town hall. Always feel free to use the regular chat. But if there are things you want to ask or say anonymously, it's a way to do that. We'll capture that and have that to share back.
Okay, if everybody has been able to either snag that QR code or has the code to use for menti.com, I think we're good to move forward. So the Division of Developmental Disabilities in partnership with A&M sent a participant and family member survey out to families in order to help understand how prepared families are feeling regarding the changes to agency with choice, and also to learn how you want to receive information about changes. As you can see here, there were 117 people who completed the survey and responded within that March 25th through April 17th timeframe. Some of the things that we heard were not everyone understands the changes and what it means for them. Most people aren't feeling too prepared for the changes. Most who responded indicated that they didn't understand common law well. And for those families who also responded, indicated that they prefer to hear from family support coordinators and the Division of Developmental Disabilities as well. And then another thing that we heard was wanting to receive information differently. So in this survey, there was an opportunity to identify the preferred way to receive information. And so the most common preferred options were email, one-on-one meetings, and town hall meetings. And so in response to that feedback, we'll be responding and explaining the changes again today. And if you're not still feeling confident in the changes or what that means to you, always remembering to speak with your family support coordinator. You can ask today during the town hall, or you can email us directly at ddd.update@state.sd.us. We're also going to be sharing regular information to keep you aware of what's happening and what you can do to help prepare. We are going to talk a little bit more today about what common law is. And again, please reach out to us directly or your coordinator asking today for any additional clarification. We will be sharing information again through town hall, and probably many of you received some of our email communications about activities and things that are happening as well. And we'll continue to share that same information with your coordinators as well. And then last but not least, we are committed to sharing in multiple ways. And so we will continue to do that as well, specifically around email, one-on-one meetings, and town hall meetings as well. This next area is just really around agency with choice and what is changing. And so agency with choice is really one way that people receiving Family Support 360 are able to manage their supports and services. And this program is changing in 2024. So important to know, does this apply to you? It does if you are enrolled in Family Support 360 and are receiving services through LifeQuest, Dakota Milestones, Volunteers of America, LifeScape, or Center for Independence in Huron. So specifically, what is the change? These 5 providers that offer agency with choice services have told the Department of Human Services that they'll stop providing these services. These providers are planning to stop what is called the co-employer service, not the other services that they might deliver. So it's just that co-employer component. So in response to that announcement from the providers, the state is exploring ways that we can sustain agency with choice. And we're doing that by exploring new vendors, both South Dakota and national vendors. And we're also looking at additional support that could potentially work for current providers. And then we're sharing information as we have it. We're trying our best to be consistent and transparent through this process, and we'll continue that commitment as well. On the right here on the screen is what will my agency stop? And so, or when will my agency stop? I'm sorry. So LifeQuest, you might have heard originally had provided a date of June 30th of 2024. And we've just recently learned and have started sharing that LifeQuest has agreed to extend. And so that date is now moved to the end of August. This is wonderful for families because summer is a very busy time. Dakota Milestones, Volunteers of America, and Centers for Independence are all in December of 2024. And then Center for Independence is also December, and then several down the line into May of 25. So essentially, the bottom line is that we're working really hard to prevent disruption for people who are using agency with choice. And we want to make sure that families have the information that they need to make really informed, good decisions for their families. And so that is why we're committing to ongoing town halls, ongoing emails, ongoing updates with coordinators. We want to make sure that folks are fully informed of all the good options that they have. So again, as I had mentioned, LifeScape is going to continue to provide this agency with choice service through August. This does give us a short-term 60-day extension to help support families through the summer. This does mean it's just a short-term extension. It's going to allow families to have that extra support through the summer. If you are receiving agency with choice through any of the other providers, those dates remain the same as we had just mentioned. And then again, just wanting to be real candid that enrolling in common law or transitioning to shared living is still the safest option to help avoid any disruption in service. You can begin that enrollment process now, but not start until after agency with choice at your particular provider when those services end. So things that you can do as a family right now is to speak with your family support coordinator, looking to explore all your service options, check emails, and then the Division of Developmental Disabilities website that's specifically designed for agency with choice updates. And that's where all the most current information is housed as well. Anybody from LifeQuest that might want to talk at all about the extension that you have announced?
So this is Pam. I guess as a team here, and just looking kind of at the timing and how things were playing out here, our team got together and said, you know, I think summer is a very, it's a time that we need to help get through. And that really kind of drove our decision to move all the way to the end of August. So I guess that's it. Joey, you covered the rest.
Thanks, Pam. Yeah, we do appreciate the partnership with providers, also with coordinators and families. This is a difficult transition and one that we're working through very intentionally. We want to make sure that we are creating a sustainable path moving forward. For those who have been a part of agency with choice over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of pretty significant changes that have impacted families. And so the department's really using this time to, again, make sure that our path forward is one that is sustainable for families as well. Thanks, Ben. I think you can, thank you. With that, I think I turn it over to A&M at this point.
Yeah, hi everyone, this is Erin again. And you know, when I look at the Mentimeter, the very first question that popped up, right, is, are you going to find a solution for agency of choice, right? Like, and that's exactly the work we're doing. And I think a very fair question is, why is it taking this long? Why isn't there something in place already? And so we thought, you know, it might help to understand what the steps are, some of which are really partnering with the federal government, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, that just add time to developing a long-term solution. right? And so the way that you can look at this slide is things with the check, right, or things that we've already done. Things with the green dot are things that we're working on right now. And things with the gray dots are ones we have to finish all of that work to get to, right? And so exploring options, right, to continue with agency with choice, meeting with the current and new providers was the very first thing we did, both to understand interest and to understand what's not working about the program now for providers that would have to be fixed moving forward. Based on that learning and, sort of everything we've heard from families about how, the changes to agency with choice, right, have made it hard for the providers to operate the program. But we know from all of you that limiting hours to 20 and in some cases 10 hours a week has also not worked well for families. And so really using this as an opportunity, as Joey said well, right, to reset and rebuild and modernize the agency with choice model. With that, developing a rate, understanding the contract terms, getting a budget to support it. And then there was a question here in the Menti as well. This was the second question. Are you going to update the waiver? The state doesn't have a choice when you make this kind of change to a program. You do have to update the waiver and get that approval and sign off from the federal partner. And so you'll see coming soon, right? Notice of those waiver changes, opportunity for public comment, and then after that, CMS has their opportunity to review and approve it. That's their approval. When they approve it, they both give you permission to move forward and commit to the federal match for the funding. And then, obviously signing up providers and families. There are a couple questions coming in from the chat, and it looks like some of them are foundational. Want to make sure everyone's following us. So Joey, do you want to take a couple of those? The first question is, are we talking about Family with Choice 360, or is this related to choices? And it looks like Julie answered that one, right? This is Family Support 360. But then there's a follow-up question that says, I don't think I understand agency with choice. Is that respite service families are receiving?
So agency with choice allows families to self-direct specific services, and those services are personal care, companion care, employment services, individual supported employment, and respite.
Thank you. Not seeing more questions. So Ben, I think we can move on here. And so just to give you an idea of like, what is the work that's happening behind the scenes, right? It just, I know it can feel like nothing's happening, right? Or it's hard to understand. And so really trying to lay a little bit out around what is some of the work that happened, right? And so the first thing was really talking with the 5 agency with choice providers and to understand, is there a path forward? What's made it hard about the program? What would you recommend change? How did we get here, right? So having those conversations, the department had identified and has been in ongoing conversations with a potential local provider for agency with choice. Likewise, there are national providers who provide agency with choice and common law services, and those conversations have been ongoing as well. Certainly there's been conversations about shared living and whether for not everybody, but families of adults who tend to use services throughout the year, right? Might that be the right choice for some families? And is that a good option to explore? And so we did an analysis of the data to think through who might this be a good program for, and each family support coordinator who had people who looked like a good match got those specific names and reached out to their family members around whether shared living might be something good to explore. Certainly looking at the contract with Acumen, as some of you know, currently the work is a pilot. As South Dakota is looking to add common law as an option, making sure that contract could support the expansion we're seeing as people are looking to common law as currently the safest option, even if it's short-term, even if it's transition, as the department continues to work on a solution for agency with choice. Kind of continuing to share information about that. We know, right? If you were using agency with choice and that was going well, you didn't really have to learn about common law, right? So now sort of reintroducing it, helping people understand what it is, what's the same and what's different about it for you as family members than agency with choice. Partnering with the South Dakota, supporting families, community of practice to help families plan for summer in a way that's integrated and really leverages what's in the community and all of that. Working with the current agency with choice providers, and lots of appreciation, Pam, to you and the team at LifeQuest for your support through the summer. And we'll talk more about this, but we're launching and kind of final push for names during these town halls, a new work group really to partner with families on solutions.
All right. So now we're going to be kind of talking about the common law and kind of just giving a little bit more background on it, and then a little bit of comparison between common law and agency with choice. So kind of just self-directing through the common law option means that you or your authorized representative, family member, or someone you might choose will be the employer of record rather than your agency with choice provider such as LifeQuest or the Center for Independence. This means that you are directly responsible for selecting and hiring your employees and managing your budget. Your family support coordinator can assist kind of to manage your budget to some degree, so they are a good resource there as well. A financial management service like Acumen will also help you with this too. So what is the common law option to self-direct? And some of the key points are you pick the people who will provide the service, so you have choice in who that employee will be. You or someone you designate are the employer of record. You complete the paperwork to hire and supervise them directly. You're responsible for paying your employees. Just a side note with that is DDD does pay the bill for that. You are responsible for managing your budget. The one good thing is you're not in this alone. The FMS, the Financial Management Service, Acumen will definitely help you with these tasks. And then your family support coordinator is also another good resource, just to kind of reiterate that they are kind of your front line and probably the first person you can really go to ask these questions to. So all of the services that are available to self-direct under agency with choice are available to self-direct through common law. So those kind of self-directed services would be respite care, companion care, personal care, and supported employment. So just a little bit more background on the employer of record. So kind of what is it? An employer of record is a person who employs staff, and then an employer of record takes full responsibility for all aspects of employment, including compliance, payroll, taxes, and benefits. And then kind of who can be that employer of record? It can be you, the recipient who receives services, an authorized representative, family member, friend, anyone you want to designate. A family member cannot be both the employer of record and an employee you hired to provide service. So as an example, mom, wants to be the employer of record and then provide be an employee. That would be seen as a conflict just because you can't basically pay yourself. Your family support coordinator, this is kind of been a question that's popped up quite a bit recently. Your family support coordinator cannot be the employer of record. We just wanted to make sure that was clear. Financial management service. So what is a financial management service? A lot of times you'll hear it referred to as an FMS. So an FMS is responsible for helping with your employer-related tasks, like legally hiring and paying staff. So for the common law option, Acumen is the DDD's FMS. And then so how will they help the employer of record? So how would Acumen help the employer of record. So they'll take care of tax paperwork, new hire process, and payroll. And they also have can assist with other administrative tasks. So this next slide really shows kind of kind of a side-by-side comparison of agency with choice with the current providers, and then common law. So we're kind of looking at some of the differences and then kind of some of the differences in responsibilities. So who is the employer of record? With agency with choice, this would be the agency with choice providers such as LifeQuest, LifeScape, or Dakota Milestones as examples. And then for the common law option, you would be the employer of record. So who picks the people who will provide the services? And both options, it would be you or the family would pick that, pick who provides the service. Who hires the employee? With an agency with choice model, it would be the agency with choice provider. In the common law model, you would be the one that actually hires the employee. Your FMS would help you complete the paperwork part of that process. And then who manages the employee schedule? Both options would be you. And then who supervises the employee? Once again, both options would be you. And then how many hours can each employee work? So with the current agency with choice model, it'd be up to 20 hours per week. And then with the common law model, an individual employee can work up to 40 hours per week. So who approves employee time? So currently with the agency with choice model, it's the family support coordinator. In the common law model, it would be you, and you can get assistance from the FMS for that. Who manages the budget? So with the agency with choice model, it would be the family support coordinator. And then in the common law model, you with help from your family support coordinator. And then just kind of who pays for these services. And for both of them, it would be the Division of Developmental Disabilities.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Again, I'm Carrie Geppert, and I am also a family member. I mentioned that earlier. So I just wanted to take a minute, if you guys wouldn't mind, just sharing my experience with the common law enrollment paperwork. And so Acumen is our financial management system that the state of South Dakota is currently using. And with Acumen, I had attended a training, I think back last October or November, just to even find out what common law was, right? It was kind of new to our state. And so I attended that training, and it was really good information about what a financial management system is. And those trainings are online if you want to take a chance, take a few minutes to watch one of those. And so it was a good foundational about, gosh, I've never even heard of a financial management system. What does that look like? How is it different? So Kate, I love that side by side of exactly what, how it looks for both agency with choice and common law. And so my daughter received services through LifeQuest, which was going to be ending June 30th. So thank you, LifeQuest, for extending that for families. It's greatly appreciated. And so I was kind of a little bit like you all, needing to really quickly learn more information about, okay, so I know the foundational information, but what's the how-to, right? Like, what does it look like in practical application? And so I worked with my coordinator. She had sent me the information a long time ago, and I just, maybe lost in the email, bottom of the email chain. And so she made sure that I had, the information again, or make sure that I could find the information. And in that was an enrollment packet. And so in the enrollment packet, it does have like the highlighted where you need to put what information. What I really liked about it is when I received it, it already had pre-filled information in. So like my daughter's name was already filled, her social security number, like everything that's already in our family support system, it was already moved over into the enrollment packet, which saved me a lot of time. Most of the papers were electronic, so I could do electronic signatures. I could fill it right out on my computer. There was no need to like print anything or mail it in. There was just one form that it had to have an actual wet signature on it. And so I filled out my paperwork and I sent it into the email address that it had on the form. And I got it back and said, you're missing information. So what I did not know is that there is a handy dandy video that you can watch on enrollment paperwork. It tells you exactly how to fill out the forms. And so I had just missed like a couple of signatures. I have to clarify, there's a packet for enrolling as the employer. So I am the employer. My daughter is 17, and so she utilizes companion care and respite care. Companion care a lot during the summertime. And so then my daughter is 26 and she provides that respite and companion care, my older daughter. And so there was a packet for me and a packet for the employee. So employer packet, employee packet. So I did all of mine. My daughter did her packet. We emailed them both in together. So she just sent it back to me. I emailed it to Acumen. And there was just a like really small minor things that I forgot. But then when I watched the enrollment video, I was like, wow, that would have been really handy. I probably wouldn't have missed that information if I watched the video first. So tip number one, make sure you watch the enrollment paperwork video because you can actually fill it out while you're watching the video. It's super helpful. And so from the time that I submitted all of the correct information, I notified my family support coordinator that I had sent it all in, asking, okay, do I need to do anything else? And so my coordinator kind of, worked through that with me of like, okay, nope, once it's sent, we'll wait to hear back. You should receive a good to go letter. And so I had received an email from Acumen and it said, thank you, we've received all your paperwork. It has been processed and approved at this time. And so I didn't know what that meant, right? Because I was like, oh, in the video, it says that I should receive like an actual good to go. It says good to go in the title. And so I was like, is this a good to go? Is that, what does that mean? And so I emailed my coordinator and said, is this what it's supposed to look like? And she said, let me check. And then she got back to me and said, no, I think it's supposed to be something different. Because in the video, it does tell you, so there's the enrollment packet video and then how to use the DCI database to record your hours and documentation and all of that. And so in the video, it says that I was supposed to receive like a login information. And so I knew that I had not received that yet. And so about a week later, my coordinator reached out and said, hey, have you received your good to go letter yet? And I said, I don't think so. And so then my coordinator followed up directly with Acumen. And within a couple of days, I had my good to go letter. I had all of our login information. So then I downloaded the app and put my login information in. I can either use an app on my phone or I can use it on my desktop. And then my daughter logs her hours and does all of her submissions on an app on her phone as well. So she had separate login information. So my employee received their information separately, and then the employer, which is in this case me, received the good to go letter. So we both received 2 separate good to go letters. And so I'm in the infancy stage. I have been approved. So I notified my coordinator, forwarded on the email and said, I think this is it. We're good to go. And so then my follow-up question then was, okay, do I need to do anything with agency with choice then? What's that look like, or what's that next step? And so no, my coordinator took care of that on her end. And so I am officially switched over to common law. I am going to use companion care for the first time this week in the new system. So I'll have a follow-up for you guys. We haven't entered our time in yet, but I'm anticipating it will go well. From what I've seen and used in the app so far, it's very user-friendly. It tells you exactly where your budget's at. There's like a budget counter, and it shows you exactly how much money you have left. And so my coordinator and I have just agreed between the two of us that I will just share, it sounds like I'll be getting a monthly report of where I'm at with my budget, or I can print one directly from the app. And so I just agreed with my coordinator that I'm just going to share anything that I get. I'm just going to share with her so she knows exactly where I'm at with my budget, if we need to make any adjustments, or gosh, I'm anticipating, I used more companion care than was budgeted for. Or, should we take a look at that and expand it? Or how much do you think you're going to use more? All those same conversations that I had with Agency with Choice, I will still have with my coordinator. And so that's been my experience. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I thank you for the opportunity to share that. I do get a few questions from some friends of mine that are also utilizing Family Support 360 services. And they asked if I was going to switch back if there was an Agency with Choice option that comes. And so far, I don't see a need to, but I do know that maybe I'll eventually have that option. And the answer is anybody can, right? Like this, if we move to common law and we find that you really liked Agency with Choice better, but I would encourage you to try it because so far what I've seen in my experience from start to finish, when I put my accurate paperwork in, was about 2.5 weeks before I got my good to go letter. So it wasn't, maybe a little bit over, but less than 3 weeks. And so I would just encourage, for those of you who are kind of on the fence or thinking about it, I would encourage you to try it. And if you find that it's not a good fit for you and there's another option in the future, you can always switch back. So, okay. Hi, Michelle. How to do common law when you are the guardian or rep payee for an adult child over 18. Okay, I think we're actually going to cover that in some myth busters, I believe, Cade, right? Is that one of the slides?
It is similar to that, but we can kind of delve into it a little bit on how that might look. Basically, the short of it is you would need to have an authorized representative for that. If I'm reading the question correctly.
Yeah, I think that the guardian question will be answered in the slide, but rep payee, I don't know if we've had that question come up before with common law.
I know. Yeah, I'm not sure if we've actually had the rep payee part come up yet. Guardian for sure. And that is where you would need, if you were the guardian, you could not be, and you were the employer of record, you could not be the employee then. So you would have to have some type of representative be your employer of record.
But you could be the employee if you had a different employer, even if you are the guardian. Yeah.
Yep, you could be. It'd just be a different, like I said, you need a different employer of record for that. So
Is
like
Acumen,
a friend of the family or something along those lines.
Is Acumen on the call by chance? I
don't think they are today.
But so the rep payee, we can find out more information and share it back out. Erin, I saw you come off mute.
I did. Hi, everyone. I'm not aware of any limitation around being a Social Security representative payee and being either the employee or the employer of record, right? Where you see the issue, right, is that you can't be both the employer and the employee. That's the big, right, condition. And so that's where you need to bring someone in either to be your employee or as Kate said, to be your authorized representative so that you can be the employee and there's somebody else approving your time, right, and authorizing payroll. So that it's just two separate functions.
And then there's kind of a follow-up to it. So if both parents are guardians and they need someone who is not them to be the employer, correct?
So your husband could be your employer and you can be the employee. Guardianship does not matter. So you just can't be the employer and employee, but your husband could be the employer and you could be the employee or vice versa. Yeah, guardianship is not an issue for you.
Yep. So if you both want to be employees, so if both of you do, then you would probably have to have someone, kind of that other representative.
Great questions. Any other thoughts or questions on the process or experience? All right, thanks for letting me share with you guys. Oh, this is me too. So common law, we've decided that sometimes we find that these large groups, right, it's hard to speak up and it's hard to ask questions, but you have questions. So we've developed an opportunity for family members to come and learn more about common law. They're welcome to just drop in. We're going to schedule some office hours that I will intentionally be on from 4 to 6 every Monday. So 4 to 6 p.m., you can hop on this Zoom link and we can talk specifically about your family situation, talk more about the common law option and how that would work specifically for your family. And then we also might use some Charting Life course tools to figure out other integrated supports to help with your specific situation. So every Monday from 4 to 6, you can just hop on. That is Central Time, so 3 to 5 Mountain. And then every Wednesday from 12 to 2, will be another Zoom link. They are 2 different links, so make sure that you have add both to your calendars so that you have 2 separate links. But 12 to 2 on Wednesdays, you can come hang out with me and I can visit with you more about what your specific needs are. And no need to sign up in advance, just hop on. So I'm happy to visit with anybody that has questions or just wants to talk through their personal scenarios.
All right. So the next 8 slides are some common themes that we've kind of been hearing, common questions, and just kind of, some myths. So we're just kind of going to go through them and just kind of debunk some of them a little bit. So the first one, if I do not have the right documentation or service notes, I will lose services. So the reality behind this is if you do not have the right documentation or service notes, you will not lose services. You might need to correct some of the documentation, but that is not, there's no reason why we would end those services. So you should work with your employees to correct the notes, and then your family support coordinator is also a really good resource here, and can kind of get you on the right path there. So the next one is if I do not have the right documentation or notes or service notes, I will be committing Medicaid fraud. So a mistake may occasionally occur. We're all human, so it does happen. An honest mistake is not considered fraud, but if done purposely and repeatedly, it could be. So if you make a mistake and do not have the right documentation, please work with your family support coordinator and employee to correct the documentation. We don't want you guys to be anyone to be scared, of committing fraud or Medicaid fraud or something like that. Honest mistakes that they happen, and we can definitely work through those. I have to sign over power of attorney to the FMS, specifically Acumen. So you do not sign over power of attorney for all affairs to the FMS. There's a form in their Acumen's paperwork that you would complete. It's the SD 2108 that references power of attorney. This power of attorney is limited to allowing Acumen to pay employee taxes on your behalf. It's not for anything else besides that specific piece. There's different types of power of attorney. Some are related to healthcare and others are related to business. The type of power of attorney being referenced in that form, that SD 2108, is limited to tax filings, kind of related to the employees that the employer of record hires. I have to pay for my own services. The Division of Developmental Disabilities pays for all costs related to Family Support 360 services. So you as the person receiving services do not have to pay for service costs out of pocket. You will be given a budget for services by your family support coordinator. You have to manage that budget and make sure that you can pay for your services out of this budget. But your family support coordinator can definitely help you with this process. Kind of those budget questions that are, once again, a really good frontline question where you can ask your questions and get good answers. I have to pay for my employees' taxes. You do not pay for your employees' taxes. DDD pays for all costs related to a Family Support 360 service. However, employee taxes must be calculated on top of hourly wages as part of your budget. Your FMS will help you with this, and these costs will come directly out of your budget. I will have to pay more income taxes at the end of the year because I'm an employer. Common law does not impact the employer of record's personal taxes. My budget is smaller in common law than an agency with choice. Your budget should not change. Your budget should remain the same between common law and agency with choice. I cannot be the guardian and the common law employer on behalf of my child. A guardian can be the employer of record on behalf of their child. Guardians cannot be the employer of record if they are also an employee. This is because the same person would submit and approve hours, which would violate Medicaid guidelines. So those are some of the myths that we're hoping to kind of clear some of the questions that are commonly popping up. So if you guys have any questions from those myth slides.
All right. Well, so the nice thing about South Dakota is we like to get together, right? We like to get together and visit, maybe over a cup of coffee. So we have an opportunity for families to get together, and that is called the Supporting Families Community of Practice. Essentially, what a community of practice is a big work group statewide. So families and individuals with disabilities come from across the state. We have regional community of practice meetings, so you don't have to drive very far. We're having one in Sioux Falls, but Brandon, Lennox, Parker, everybody's welcome to come. So we call it the area or the regional community of practice meeting. But it's an opportunity to come and find out what statewide initiatives are currently happening to support families. And then we need you to help us develop priorities for the upcoming next year. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of highlight and share some of our successes with some of the outreach efforts and educational and training supports and services that we've offered. And they're all free for families. And then we need to find out from you, what are your support needs? And I know you guys do a really good job of visiting with your coordinators. Coordinators bring that information forward as well to say, here's what we're hearing from families. But we want you to come and have a cup of coffee with us and just sit down and just say, here's what my family needs, right? Or if you're an individual with a developmental or intellectual disability, we want you to sit at the table and have a cup of coffee with us and tell us what you need, so that we can together develop these priorities and key efforts for the upcoming fiscal year. So it really is a positive learning environment where we learn from each other. We brainstorm new ideas. Maybe something doesn't exist in our state that you need for supports. We want how do we address it, right? So come with some ideas of the how-to. And if you don't know how and you just want to share what the need is, so we'll do a needs assessment and then really kind of collaboratively as a group, brainstorm ideas of ways that we can help support those needs. And so we'll do it in each region. And so we hear lots of different regions because they have different needs, right? And so then we'll come together as a state team and share back what we've heard from all of our different regions and how we're going to address some of those needs. So you have to help us develop that. There is the upcoming one is April 30th in Sioux Falls at the Wagner Health Library, right off of 22nd Street. It's kind of attached to some Sanford buildings. If you need directions, I can certainly help. There is a light supper that will be served, so you can have your coffee and a sandwich and visit. And then we will also be holding regional meetings in Aberdeen and Sturgis. We just did our peer one last week, which was a lot of fun and just great energy. So come join us. If you can't join in person, we will have a virtual option. We tried to do a hybrid last time, and it just kind of didn't work real well. So I think we're going to do a separate virtual, just statewide virtual. So anybody can come to that as well if you missed the in-person. And then Brandy, you had asked that we're going to send out information. Yes. So we so information on the office hours, we definitely can send out an email in regards to what those hours are in the Zoom links. I do know that A&M posted it in the chat here if you wanted to copy it directly. And then that supporting families community of practice, we can certainly get that flyer back out again. I do know that we send it, through our listserv. If you are not currently on our listserv, please go to our website. There are several options to receive information. One of them is Family Support 360. Another one is Supporting Families Community of Practice. We have a listserv for DDD events and then also Charting the Life Course events. So you can just click as many of those boxes as you want to receive information about, but if you are not currently on our listserv, I would strongly recommend going to our website. And I bet we could probably post that in the chat as well of how to get to those listservs. So excited to sit and have a cup of coffee with you guys if you'll join me.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, we'll get that information on the listserv posted here while we are in the last bit of our meeting, but we'll make sure that folks have that. So if you want to sign up, you will have access to do that. Other ways that you can get involved if you're interested, we are working to launch a family work group. And so the work group's focus will really be partnering on self-direction. So the work group will be advising the state specifically on self-direction. If you want to participate in the work group, you're interested in partnering with us in this way, please email ddd.update@state.sd.us. Let us know you're interested. Information about the first meeting will be shared once you've signed up and once that work group is fully formed. Participants then will decide meeting schedule cadence after that first meeting. So again, if you're looking to get involved, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to partner with you on self-direction. So please reach out to that email and we will be in contact with next steps on that work group launch. So as Erin shared earlier, the agency with choice changes does mean that we do have to amend the Family Support 360 waiver. When we amend a waiver, the Centers for Medicare or Medicaid Services, CMS, requires public comment. So the first step will be that the state will publish a notice and a copy of that amendment. As part of that, we always provide a summary of what those changes are, because the waivers themselves are upwards of 200 pages. When we post a waiver, we post the whole thing, but we also post as part of the notice, again, what the summary is. Next, there is at least a 30-day comment period. And then the last step of this procedure is that the state summarizes and responds to the comments that were received during this 30-day public comment period. Those comments are then submitted to CMS with the waiver. Once the waiver is submitted, the CMS has typically 90 days is their goal timeframe to review. So we want to hear from you when we kick off this process. And so in addition to the CMS requirements, we'll be working to share updates and information about the waiver amendments. We'll be doing that through email. We'll be doing that through our website. We'll tie that to our Agency with Choice website. The public comment is noted also on the DHS website. There's a specific section for that. We will host a forum to share information about the changes and then to take any additional public comment at that time as well. And so as you can see, what questions do you have? I know we've shared a lot of information. You can ask out loud. You can ask through the chat. We want to be able to answer as many of your questions live as we can as well. So we'll just pause for any questions or comments. So I see in the chat, Brandy made a comment about not being able to copy and paste from the chat. So Brandy, are you referring to the office hours links?
Yeah, I was trying to get the office hours and then the link for the registration code for April 30th, and it's not allowing me to copy and paste from the chat box.
Okay, we will see if we can work through that to make sure that folks have access to that as well. Any other comments, questions?
Joey, I can read off some questions from Menti while we're looking for folks to also just fill in the chat or open their mics. The first question is, have you found an agency with choice to replace the current one yet?
We have not. So when a new vendor is identified, that announcement will come from the state. And we will announce that as soon as we can. Any other things that you might hear, if it's not coming from the state, it is not potentially factual. So I would just ask, please be patient. We're making sure that we're working through all the channels, making sure we're being very thoughtful with a solution. And again, the state will announce that. As soon as there is a vendor, you will hear that directly from Department of Human Services.
Okay. The next question, I know you already answered part of, Joey, during the presentation, but it says you're proposing to make changes to the waiver, and if so, what are you thinking? People are speculating, and it would be better to hear anything from DDD.
Well, for sure, the things we'll have to change is the agency with choice. Likely, regardless of what solution path we move down, the way that it is defined in the waiver would need to change. And so that is going to be a component of an update to, or an amendment to the waiver, I should say.
Next it says, when DHS sends out letters for families, can a Spanish version be sent to?
Sure, we can work with coordinators if English is a second language and we don't have that information. We will be sure to make sure that that is sent. We just need to know who would need that.
And it looks like there's some questions coming in the chat. It seems like the budget will be used up quicker since workers' comp 3.95% will be charged by Acumen when the payroll taxes are deducted also.
So this would be one that I would recommend working with your coordinator, so if you move forward with common law, Acumen is going to help you identify what those payroll taxes are. So if any changes need to be made, that's a great opportunity to work with your coordinator around that. Ashley, I see you have your hand up.
Could the Spanish forms also be put on the DHS Agency of Choice website?
So there is a language interpreter within the DHS website that can interpret any of that information on the website. So if we post that form, you'll be able to use an interpreter through that. There are many Spanish-speaking families. Can a Spanish option be sent? Oh, that was your question. That was already shared. Okay.
No, this is separate. I'm sorry. I think we all have Spanish-speaking families, so for me, I would need a Spanish option for every form sent out because when I send it to families, I always need a Spanish option, if that makes sense. And I don't think I'm probably the only coordinator that needs that.
That's a great comment. How are you handling that now?
I'm using lots of billable units to use Google Translate to do the best I can.
Okay, thank you. There's a question about, can new people get into the waiver right now? As far as if they are going to apply for services, that can happen at any time. Application for services is an ongoing process, Angie. And so if there is interest in Family Support 360 or choices, yours has not been moving for months. So I'm going to put my email, Angie, in the chat. If you can contact me directly, I'm curious to know what exactly is occurring there, and that might be best handled offline. So I'm going to put my email in. If you can please give me an email, and we can schedule some time to visit even yet today, if possible. There should not. I'd just like more information on that. And anybody else who would like to reach me directly, please feel free to use the email that I'm putting in as well. It is not just for Angie. What other questions?
Joy, I can read you a couple more from the Menti.
Okay.
How does a family support coordinator help manage budgets when we don't see the budget when they use common law?
So we've talked about this. We meet weekly with family support coordinators, and we talk about lots of different updates as it relates to agency with choice. So there's a few options for the employer well, specifically the employer. There's a report that can be run out of the Acumen system that you could use with your coordinator to walk through utilization. So that's one recommendation that we provided to coordinators so that they can be more involved in some of those conversations. Other things that coordinators can assist with is looking at overall service utilization based off of your plan and ensuring that that's still accurate. Visiting with families about hiring, onboarding, potentially firing employees. That's a big one. That's difficult. Some of those conversations are hard to have, and that's something that coordinators can help with as well.
Thank you. The next question, there's two questions in a row about audits. So I'll read them both because I think you can probably answer them collectively.
Okay.
The first is, can you talk about how audits work for families using common law? And if the family is responsible or the provider is responsible, if documentation is not completed correctly, do they pay money back? And then the second related question is, how do we figure out audit paybacks if wrong documentation was submitted and reviews happen later? Who pays that back? So I think they're the same question.
Okay. So typically an audit occurs at it's a random sample. And again, as Cade was walking us through with the kind of fact checking the myths, if there is a error or there's a discrepancy in documentation, you would first work with Acumen to help work through any of those issues. You would also, as part of that process, be able to edit or revise as needed that documentation. Erin, I feel like there was a third part that I maybe didn't get. Can you walk me through if there was a piece I missed?
I think you got it, right? So who's responsible? Okay. If it's the family or the provider, if it's not completed, and do you have to pay money back? And Joy, what I heard you talk about was really before even any kind of payback, there'd be an opportunity to correct.
Yes.
If it was a mistake.
Yes. And again, to the part that Cade walked us through, we get into, I mean, I get the sense that maybe those questions are kind of shrouded in, I don't want to commit Medicaid fraud, right? Nobody does. But there's certain components and some intentionality and repeat is some of those factors. Basic human error, those are not things that you should be alarmed about. Those are things that the Acumen will work to help you revise. I see Heidi has one question in the chat. Are you able to give an anticipated timeline for the announcement on a new agency with choice vendor and when that vendor would be actually able to be utilized? We don't have necessarily a timeline at this point. I mean, if I was being really optimistic, I would say in the coming weeks, so 2 to 3 weeks, maybe we would have more information. But I don't have a solid timeline that I'm too confident in sharing right now. And so that's just me being really candid. We don't have that. We will share that as soon as we have it.
Joey, this is Heidi. I just wanted to follow up to that. Once, or if and when a new agency with choice vendor is identified and announced, do you have an anticipated timeline for how long it might take for the approval process that you mentioned? Like rewriting the waiver, the public comments, all of the steps that have to happen in between.
Yeah, well, just the waiver process alone is, if it runs textbook, like smooth as can be, it's probably 120 days. If it runs exactly without issue, there's no extension. So that's 120 days just for the waiver. So other things that are happening in parallel to that are the conversations with potential vendors, making sure that we have what we need in place to put into that amendment for the waiver.
Okay, and am I understanding correctly then that all of those changes need to take place before a new agency with choice vendor could be utilized then, correct?
That is the typical process. So we would typically go through and have the federal approval for changes to the waiver prior to implementation.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful to know and to understand, because I think there are a lot of people, coordinators, families, that are waiting to see if this option is going to come through before time runs out. And so I think that's really helpful to know and understand that process is going to take some significant time.
It's going to take some time, and that's really why we've been trying to pass along the message too, that the best options for the least disruption of service is looking at common law or shared living right now, because we know we are bumping up against some of these other requirements. And I think if we all had our magic wands and could waive it, we wouldn't have the 120 days. That's kind of solid time frame. But in reality, that's one of the things that we're working within in order to have a really sound solution.
Thank you for answering that.
Yes. Other questions?
There's a comment. Each provider could work 40 hours a week pending approved hours or funds, and considering monthly waiver limits of 3,500, there are restrictions to the 40 hours a week.
I'm not sure I understand that question. I might phone a friend. To Cade.
There is a monthly waiver limit on, like specifically if it was just for personal care services of $3,500 a month. In certain circumstances, we can exceed that waiver limit. It kind of really just varies person to person, situation to situation. But they could also do up to 40 hours of, 20 hours of companion care, 20 hours of respite care. It could be spread out a little bit through different services.
I hope that helped answer the question.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kate.
There's just one more question in the Menti, which is, how are we addressing Acumen not paying providers? The Better Business Bureau website does not show good reviews, and it's concerning. Is this an issue in South Dakota?
That's a great question. So this did come up just last week with our family support coordinators and their weekly update. And we do have representatives from Acumen who attend those conversations. And I believe they had asked for a direct call so that they could sort out what the issue was as well. And so I would say if there are any issues, to our knowledge, Acumen is working to get that resolved. Any other questions, comments? Erin, was there anything else from the Menti poll that we wanted to share?
We talked through all of the comments.
Thanks. I was just hitting refresh to see. I think we're good.
Okay, I want to make sure that we go back to the question from Brandy, or the comment about not being able to access the links. So we will work to make sure that those get to coordinators, because I believe those have gone to families. So Brandy will work to make sure that you get that as well. It's just a takeaway of not seeing any further updates. And then I think just moving forward into the agenda, just a few reminders. If you have questions, please talk with your family support coordinator. Check our email. I'm sorry, check the email communications from DD. We are sending out, as we have updates, we are using this particular email, so you'll see that there. We have a listening tour that is being revised a little bit, so we'll be sharing an updated schedule on that as soon as possible. And then again, we're posting all the resources for the most up-to-date information on the Agency with Choice specific webpage on the Department of Human Services website. And so again, cannot direct traffic there enough. That is the best place to get information on that is in real time and up to date. That's what we had for today. I'm going to stay on the line if there's additional questions. I don't want anyone to be rushed. So anyone is welcome to hang out with me, and we will just until I want to make sure that everybody has had time, if there are questions, that we can get those answered. If you've got to run, thank you for spending some time with us today. But I'm going to hang on the line if there's other questions or comments. Okay, any other questions? Thoughts? Okay, hearing none. My email is in the chat. If there's additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And again, thank you for joining us today.